Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Dan Willers is the founder of Yellow Mouse Studios. Dan is all about connecting and helping people in the animation industry. And with this in mind, he's created a community interest company called Animate Devon, which organises great networking opportunities for people in that industry. This episode is kindly sponsored by the Content Consultancy, founded by content confidence coach Kate Llewellyn. You'll hear more about her products and services later in the show. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Dan.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's going to be brilliant.
So you're a 2D and 3D animator and illustrator. Have you always worked in this field, and what did you study?
Well, I haven't always worked in this field. I originally studied fine art, and that was at a BA honours level. And after that, I tried to make my way in the world in creative jobs here in Exeter, which was a bit of a struggle because, creative jobs are few and far between, really. And if you're a fine artist, you're not really a specifically trained kind of person. So I found myself in package design, I found myself in websites, I found myself in interior design. And all of those careers were interesting, and I learned loads of stuff, but really it wasn't me. So after a while, I decided to go back to university to do a master's degree, which is where I honed my skills into 3D animation.
And what was it that drew you to that particularly?
The honest answer is my partner. I was sort of unhappy in my last career being the interior design, which really turned out to be just high intensity selling, so the pressures of that, regional managers, targets and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So I was pretty over it, and I just said to my partner Katie, I said, look, I think if I don't change my life, I'm probably going to have an episode. And she said, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, look, I haven't done any kind of drawing for years that I'm, that is creatively satisfying. So maybe I should just do an illustration degree, because I'd love to get into comics and kids' books and stuff. Yeah. And obviously I had a passion for animation, but I just didn't think I was skilled enough for it. And she actually said, well, look, there's a really cool course at Bournemouth at the NCCA, which is the National Computer something for Animation Centre for Animation. And I said, oh, look, it sounds really out of my league. And she said, well, look, just go and have a talk. Go to the open day, have a talk with the course leaders, explain what's what, and see how you get on. And of course, she was right. Yeah. I got there and I fell in love with this idea of, animating and getting into film and TV. Yeah. And of course, because I was a little bit older than the normal kind of intake, I kind of fitted that criteria, that little checkbox of, oh, this guy's, of a later sort of age and wants to change his career. So I managed to get on the course, which was totally cool. Met some really awesome people. And then, of course, that opened the door to my career. Yeah, yeah. So after you'd done that qualification, how easy was it for you to find work? Oh, well, look, I was really lucky. I was basically, before I'd even had my graduation ceremony, I was on an internship with a big studio in London. Wow. So essentially, it doesn't happen like that for everybody. But, I walked out of university and straight into a film where I was an intern for 6 months. Yeah. And in that 6 months, I just met all the cool people and learned all the cool stuff that I needed to continue, and luckily proved myself in that internship so that they offered me a job, and I stayed there for a good couple of years after that.
Yeah, fantastic. And you have worked for some really cool people, having had a look at your LinkedIn profile, people like Aardman and CIC and Paramount. So tell me about some of the projects that you've worked on for these people.
Well, over a career of kind of freelancing in and out of various studios, working on films, working on, TV that we will have all kind of enjoyed over the years, things like, the types of natural history where actually it's dinosaurs walking around rather than, so there's plenty of that. And the very last film that I worked on before everything changed and Yellow Mouse Studios came along was the Sherlock Gnomes film, which was the part 2 to Romeo and Juliet. And that was really cool because actually I was already at that point thinking about how I'd been working in this sort of environment in London for such a while that it was starting to become a bit of a grind, because I actually live here in Exeter. So that having that as my kind of last real in London project was such a beautiful experience, and I met so many wonderful people on that project. So those connections stay with you, and as a result, I've managed to work with those contacts and friends in projects for Yellow Mouse Studios now. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So yes, let's talk about Yellow Mouse. And how did that come about? When did that get started?
Well, 2015, the company was registered. Now, it was registered for specific reasons of tax, because I was freelancing in London and the government at the time was cracking down on companies that were just constantly using freelancers on a like on a revolving contract, which meant that they didn't have to pay their taxes to the government. So what happened was all the studios up in London were saying, you either have to prove that you're not one of our employees, and to do that you have to be a limited company yourself, or you do have to be an employee, a PAYE, and we're not going to do that. So I actually was forced into setting up a limited company, which at the time I didn't really have the inkling as to what that might mean. And like I said to you, I was kind of feeling a little bit tired of the routine of leaving Exeter on a Sunday, working all week in London and living on my mate's sofa, and then coming back on a Friday super stressed out from London. And so I spoke to Katie again, and Katie said, well, look, why don't we put a public face on the limited company, and then maybe you can find other types of work that might keep you out of London as a kind of a balance. So half in Devon, half in London. And you know what happened?
Was she right?
Yeah, of course, she was right again. And what really happened was I never went back to London from the day that I set up the website and everything else. So it was a real shock to the system that it was that quick. But yeah, I mean, I still did a little bit of freelancing again, because Bristol's not that far away, at Aardman, as a way of really just kind of gently easing my way out of that life, because I'd been doing some Yellow Mouse Studio stuff for about a year, and then the opportunity to work on something near Christmas came up at Aardman, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. And it was a cool experience and lovely, of course, like it used to be, surrounded by the same sort of people in that kind of environment. But again, in the back of my mind, I was still thinking, well, actually, no, really, I like being the boss. And so it kind of weaned me off. So even though it was cool and it was nice to revisit that kind of freelancer life for a moment, it really just reaffirmed the fact that I've got a business now, and actually I should really focus on how I can make that successful.
Yeah. So why Yellow Mouse? How did you come up with that name?
Well, okay, this is a long story, but I will keep it short. a long time ago, before I changed careers and I was an interior designer, we inherited a little white cat from a friend of mine who was going through a bit of a split with his partner there. And the cat was the victim in the sense that it didn't have a home to go to. So we took the cat, and the cat, you know, was absolutely wonderful. And we bought her lots of toys. And one of those toys was this little yellow fluffy mouse, which she seemed to connect with more than anything else. But connect in a way such as she would be lying there and then suddenly stand up and the mouse would be underneath her. And the mouse would appear around various places where the cat had been, but not, you know, she wasn't playing with it like cats play with toys. It was just there like a teddy, I suppose. Yeah. And then one day, obviously, because cats get old and sadly pass on, this happened. And I said to Kate, where's Yellow Mouse gone? And it had completely disappeared. And this is true. To this day, we've not found that mouse, and we only live in a small house, and we've moved furniture around and everything, and it's completely disappeared. So little stories started to emerge about how the cat and the little yellow mouse had gone off for great adventures. And this little yellow mouse one day may return with riches like they do in fairy tales. And it just seemed appropriate that this little yellow mouse would be the mascot for me. Yeah. And my little ideas that tend to grow and get bigger and bigger. So, yeah, it stuck. And that's how it became this thing that a lot of people really like the idea of.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great story. So tell me a bit about what Yellow Mouse does and the services that you offer.
Well, it became apparent that to try and get work locally, I would have to offer a different set of skills, because working in VFX is all about 3D, you know, creating assets that you can then merge into film as a real thing, so that if they're, you know, in a film talking to a robot, the robot, it feels like it's really there, yeah? So that's a real specific skill set. And I knew that, you know, I could do that, obviously, but the chances are to get jobs locally, people might not need a VFX artist, but they would probably need somebody with those animation skills to create videos that would help share their message to the world via social media or whatever. And so, yeah, I started to focus on a new set of skills, which was 2D animation, and really retrained myself in a very intensive, short space of time to be able to provide that kind of service to people. Now, funnily enough, what happened was I didn't really get work locally. I started getting work internationally through the music industry and through medical sciences and through other types of clients across the world, which was a real shock to me. I wasn't quite prepared for it, but it was great, because actually it was fun, and I learned loads of cool stuff to do in 2D and motion graphics, providing, you know, music videos for quite famous people like Joni Mitchell and Neo and a lot of other names that I couldn't even tell you who they were, but apparently they're dead famous, like Doja Cat and things like this. And I was amazed, you know, that a middle-aged man like me was dealing with rappers in LA. So it was all cool. And then, other things started to happen, like charities would get involved because they liked the quirkiness of what I was doing, and they thought it would be a nice, easy way for their very important messages to be shared. And then other organisations such as the National Trust, and then we started doing some stuff for the BBC, and it just kind of found its own path. Yeah.
So are there any sort of projects that you particularly like working on? Any kinds of clients that are like your favourite?
Well, yeah. I mean, recently, in the last few years, we've been working quite closely with the National Trust, and I love history. Yeah, like a proper nerd, you know. I'm totally mad for history, and I'm totally mad for visiting castles and old houses and seeing all the cool stuff and all the history. So I got contacted by Dunster Castle, which is up near Minehead.
Yes, yeah.
And they were like, look, we need to get 1,000 years of history into a very short video, 5 minutes max. And I said, wow, that's incredible. So yeah, I got invited up there and I got to see the parts of the castle stroke house that general public don't get to see, a few ghostly experiences, and of course learnt loads of really cool stuff, which really fueled my personal interests, and every day of working on that project was a joy. And so I tried, reaching out to as many local National Trust houses as possible to see if there was more opportunities there, and so far we've managed to get a few other jobs, so it's been brilliant.
Tell me, are you a business owner who finds content creation overwhelming or inconsistent? It's time to stop doing what you think you should or must. It's time to start doing marketing your way. Kate Llewellyn helps serious entrepreneurs and business leaders cut through the noise to build a powerful content strategy that actually drives growth. Join her membership, the Confident Content Creators Club, for the structure and clarity you need to plan with purpose and create content with confidence. Ready for an immediate mindset shift? Grab Kate's free 4-day Content Confidence audio series. It's designed to instantly help you identify your limiting beliefs and the specific barriers stopping your content creation success. Sign up today and stop letting self-doubt drive your business marketing. Just go to thecontentconsultancy.com/content-confidence-audio. So tell me now a bit about the training academy that you run.
Well, this was an idea that me and Katie had talked about in the very beginning of Yellow Mouse Studios, because being in Devon, it's not apparent that students who learn animation down here at Arts University Plymouth or Falmouth have any kind of instant opportunity in the county. And as such, lots of talent leaks out and goes to Bristol and beyond, London. And in the very early days, I opened the doors to Yellow Mouse Studios to anybody who wanted work experience and the chance to work with me as a professional to get their portfolios to a higher standard so that they can then move on to bigger studios. And actually this became quite a focus point for Yellow Mouse Studios, where we would help students as much as we could. And the idea was then, well, why couldn't we potentially give some sort of training for students, whether they were students who were thinking about going to college to learn animation, or they were students that were coming out of university that felt they needed some extra input to their skill set. And it took 10 years of talking about it and thinking about it until we managed to start it this year. And with all business plans, you try and be cautious and to take things step by step, but it's kind of accelerated beyond again, like this. The studio accelerated beyond, like I say, I didn't want to go back to London, and then suddenly now we're being partnered up with Libraries Unlimited to put workshops in libraries across Devon. We're being partnered with Exeter University to offer some animation to film students there and gaming students there, and this has all happened in like 8 months, so it's really snowballing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then the other thing that you have going on is your CIC, Animating Devon. So tell me something about that.
Well, again, because of the nature of me wanting to go out and support students, and this age-old kind of problem that I was finding, that Devon is such a great county, but it's a real difficult one to navigate across easily. And that there were people that I knew from London who were moving down to Devon because of, the want to live in a more rural environment. And it became apparent that I was hearing lots of people saying, look, I'm still freelancing, but I'm feeling quite isolated. So I said, well, look, somebody needs to do something about that. And I said that a few times and nobody piped up. So I said, okay, I'll do something about it. So I started setting up these support events where animators, young and old, student, graduate or professional, and other types of creatives, illustrators, actors or writers could come together in one space and just really be together for the purposes of collaboration, for support, for learning, for sharing. And these events really, again, just snowballed to the point where I'd paid for a venue in Plymouth for 12 months out of my own pocket, and in Exeter for 12 months. And I thought to myself, well, this is awesome, but I don't think I can sustain this financially.
Yeah.
So I need something to do. And I looked at my company, Yellow Mouse Studios, and thought, well, can Yellow Mouse Studios pay for this as a kind of a sidearm thing? And then I thought, well, it doesn't really belong in that kind of environment. What it belongs in is a company interest, a community interest company with an umbrella that can support that kind of thing, but also support some of the other initiatives that Yellow Mouse Studios was doing, but actually was outside of the normal kind of animating for clients type stuff. So yeah, again, me and Katie discussed it, and Katie came up with the idea. I have to keep saying this because it's not all me, even though I'm generally the face of the companies. It's because, you know, that's the way it is. But really, there's two of us. We're a partnership in decision making, and so this idea of Animate Devon was born, and it's brand new. We only registered it this month and set up the bank accounts, and of course I'm setting up the meetings with accountants, and but already incentives have started where we've managed to help a student with some support by giving them equipment, and we've also sort of umbrellaed the We Animate on Twos events, and we're also able to look at other ways of supporting people by even applying for funding, which could potentially help people get their projects off the ground. So it's become a real, actual, important kind of focus that we think can help a lot of people here across Devon. And for the future plans that we've got as far as more community events, it just makes sense to be umbrellaed under this rather than the studio.
Yeah. Well, that brings us nicely onto networking, I think, because clearly what you're doing there is you're building a network.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, without me thinking network, if you know what I mean. I was thinking more about, wouldn't it be nice if, my friend who I worked with in London, who now lives in Ilfracombe, could come down and meet some of my friends that I've made at Arts University Plymouth, for example. And that kind of just grew into this idea that if I put the event on, I can provide, some of my contacts from London even to come down and talk about the cool projects that they're working on and give people insight into the industry, how it's evolving, and also hopefully give them inspiration to really work hard on their own stuff, even if they do want to stay in Devon. Because, opportunity comes with collaboration and with talking to people, and which is essentially the core of what networking is.
Yeah. And
I don't call it networking because, I call it community, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when you're in business, as small businesses like we are, you rely on people spreading, your network spreading the word for you and telling other people about what it is that you do. And clearly there was a need for a network in your part of the world that wasn't there. And so you've just gone ahead and created it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was working in London, there was events in London where you could, after work, go and have a pint and just talk to people, talk about software, learn new skills. And the same thing was happening in Bristol, and I know in other places around the UK, but there was just nothing like that down here. And it was a bit of a, I wish there was as well, I wish there was, because I didn't fancy having to drive all the way to Bristol to do this. Yeah. So again, it just kind of made sense that if no one was going to do it, I was going to have to do it, and that's what it's become. And long may it continue. It's really good fun.
Now, it sounds like you've got plenty of things going on, Dan, but do you have any more plans for the future?
I do. I mean, Exeter was the site of a internationally renowned animation festival that ran for many years, and it stopped in 2016. And ever since it stopped, I've been wondering why. And of course, the conversations and the badgering really that I've been doing has now put me into a position where there are people around me who used to be part of this massive thing. People like Exeter University, the local museum here, which is quite a successful international connected museum, and Exeter Council. All these people I've been badgering as to why are now talking to me and looking to me to say, well, if you're so interested, why don't you do it? So yeah, there's a massive plan, and that's really a big thing. So again, that fits under the umbrella of Animate Devon. So yeah, hopefully soon. I mean, I can't promise when, but the forging ahead is happening, and the meetings are being very successful, and really the next stage is finding money and how that works. So I've been doing some workshops locally on crowdfunding, on corporate partnerships, and on other kinds of fundraising, and it's really interesting.
Wow, you've got a lot going on, Dan. So my final question then, if anyone wants to find out more about Yellow Mouse, or your training academy, or Animating Devon, or the Animation Festival, what is the best place for them to find you?
Well, I mean, the easiest one to remember is always Yellow Mouse. So if you was to, Google that and find my website, you can contact me there, which is obviously yellowmousestudios.co.uk, or if you remember the fact that it's Animating Devon, well, that's a .com now, so you can find information there. So either's good. I mean, the contact forms on the websites both come to me, so either way you'll get me. Or Kate, of course. And yeah, we can obviously try and help you there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being my guest. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been brilliant. Really cool.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.